This is the Wrestling Old Head. You have entered the portal of pro wrestling.
What the world is watching.
So this is it. This is night 2 of WrestleMania 41. We're about to break down what happened like a shotgun. It's something about triple threat matches and this weekend that I don't know how to put into words. I've seen 3 triple threat matches. One was not like the other, and they were all tremendous. This one included Io Sky retains her Women's World Championship by defeating Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. The crowd, it was like they read all the comments of how awful they were at night 1 and really started off hot. The chemistry between these 3 women are off the charts. The trail of these triple threat matches this weekend continues, but I would rank this, I know, probably like 2 or 3 on the list of triple threat matches this weekend. Number 1 being CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. That is my opinion. You're welcome to fight me on that in the comments. Bianca Belair, she's getting booed, in my honest opinion, based on her involvement or lack thereof in the Naomi Jade Cargill scenario. Either they feel she's somehow still involved in the attack on Jade, or they felt like she should have been more apologetic to Jade after the attack took place and it was revealed to be Naomi. Also, you've got to remember the way Jade reacted to Naomi being attacked in the chamber was very much like someone who cared more for Naomi than for Jade being back and healthy and showing her that Bianca's so-called friend Naomi was up to no good. But let's get back to the action. They put on a very, very great triple threat match with the crowd playing up some of the action. Loved that Io Sky won, as the story going into this match was that she was playing the third wheel, the shadow for Rhea and Bianca, and this was her coming out party and showing everyone that she belongs. And I'm glad they're giving Io her flowers here. Bianca should be moving on to a match with Jade or Naomi, in my opinion, to tie up that loose end, maybe get some of that crowd reaction back in her favor. I don't know if they're going to be turning her heel. I personally would, but I don't know if they're going to go in that direction. And Rhea is going to be interesting here where they decide to move her. You know, I read somewhere not too long ago that Jessica Carr, the WWE referee, was training for a comeback to wrestling, as she had some matches in the WWE previously. I think it was for the Mae Young Classic or something like that before becoming a referee. I don't know if she became a referee because of injuries or whatnot, but I read somewhere that she got herself in shape, and she looks tremendous. And the way she looks, the way she reacted to Rhea during her match with Io Sky on Raw, if you remember that with Bianca, I wouldn't mind seeing Jessica Carr and Rhea Ripley form a tag team and going after the tag titles. I don't know, fantasy cooking there, but if she were to come back, I think pairing her with Rhea Ripley is like a match made in heaven or hell or whatever. And as for Io, I'm still looking for Asuka to return as early as Raw and beat the ever-loving shit out of Io Sky. As far as openers go, this is probably one of the better openers that I have ever seen for WrestleMania. This was a fantastic opener. These women probably put on one of the greatest women's wrestling triple threat matches that I have ever seen. This was a clinic. And a little fun fact, this is the first time a Japanese-born wrestler has won at WrestleMania since Taka Michinoku won at WrestleMania 14. Now, you're going to probably say, well, but what about Akebono? He won against Big Show, but he was born from Hawaii. So, fun little fact there. From the Wrestling Old Head. Up next on WrestleMania Night 2 was the Sin City Street Fight. Damian Priest got the win over Drew McIntyre. This was your typical WWE Raw street fight, and that's not a bad thing. But I felt like they could have fought backstage more or over in the stadium, but that's fine. I'm sorry, did I say that Damian Priest won? I am sorry about that. It was Drew McIntyre that won cleanly in the street fight. This was something you could tell it's really late for me right now. It's been a long night. I can't believe a Freudian slip with Damian Priest. But this was your typical street fight, as I said before. The WWE layers their shows in a way where I feel like they don't want to steal the glory too much from their upper to main event matches, and I get that. So Priest and McIntyre instead went for a hard-hitting match with tables and chairs. I felt that Drew McIntyre needed this win as he was able to advance here, and Priest would become more aggressive with a loss, and it looks like they went in that direction. Not sure where else they can go with these big matches. Priest could probably gain more and more momentum and eventually end up going after the U.S. Championship with Jacob Fatu, and McIntyre, I feel, with this win sets him up easily for a match with Jey Uso. Somehow they get to that point. I know they're on two different brands, but, you know, now I don't even know if they're still going to do the draft after WrestleMania. I don't know where they're going with the draft, but I feel with Drew now gaining more momentum and getting his confidence back, a match with Jey Uso after maybe beating Jimmy Uso or something is definitely going to be in the cards going forward for that. But Drew getting that win, Scott Keith would call this perfectly acceptable wrestling, and I would as well. Dominic Mysterio wins the Intercontinental title from Penta, Braun Breaker, the former champion now, and Finn Balor after stopping Balor from winning the match with a frog splash. I've seen people predicting Dom was going to win, and honestly, I felt that they would go with Breaker having his WrestleMania moment more so than that. But it just actually makes storyline sense for Dom to win the Intercontinental title by costing Finn the match and furthering the implosion of the Judgment Day. If this is how we get to Balor going full Demon King, demon mode, I'm all for it. But again, that pop Dom got for his win, if this is an indicator that the crowd is going to start to side with Dom here, I'm not sure if Balor going demon would help or hurt him in this scenario get further over. This was a fast-paced match, all things considered. That spear from Breaker on Carlito was absolutely insane, and the crowd remained hot for this match. I swear this crowd is making up for night one here in spades. It was a great match. I'd say a good match, actually. Very solid. It didn't overstay its welcome, but it was great to see Penta get on the Mania card. He's such a superstar, and I'm really, really happy for Dominic Mysterio as well. He's come a long way. This is a huge moment for him to have this WrestleMania moment here with the Intercontinental Championship, when I was down on the idea of Dominic Mysterio getting the Intercontinental Championship because I really felt like they hadn't established him as someone that could be a contender there. I didn't think that they had given him a chance to be anything more than a weasel. Now they have an opportunity for him to be a weasel, to sneak out and continue winning matches. And of course, you are setting up for Braun Breaker to eventually win that Intercontinental Championship back as well. I'd keep your eyes on that. Very solid for what it was. Randy Orton comes out next, and the man who answers his open challenge, I guess he heard everybody saying his name. It was Joe Hendry, TNA World Heavyweight Champion. This was a great moment for Joe Hendry and for TNA continuing their partnership here. Randy Orton doing the RKO after Hendry does his pose was great stuff, and even Orton doing the pose after the second RKO, he did the Joe Hendry pose. That was peak comedy. Really great moment here, kind of like an old school WrestleMania moment. You know, one of those things that was missing from this night was just to break it up, to have that interaction, you know, get the crowd a break from, like, you know, the back and forth action and just be able to enjoy themselves, have a moment. Randy Orton very much provided that. He provided a moment. It was a celebration of 20 years of WrestleManias for Randy Orton, and it was a celebration of the popularity of Joe Hendry and, of course, the partnership there with TNA and the WWE. So I thought it was great for what it was. To me, it was a better decision to go with someone like Joe Hendry as opposed to someone like Aleister Black or Rusev or any of the other kind of debut/return options that were on the table, because in that regard, you don't have to risk a loss from Orton or even a loss of momentum from these superstars upon their return or even debut. So I thought that was great for what it was as well. AJ Styles loses to Logan Paul. This was a great match, in my opinion. These guys have great chemistry. It started off a little clunky at the beginning there. There was like a feeling out process. AJ Styles kind of smirked a little bit like, oh, you want to go? Like one of those things. But I thought they ended up covering after that really well. This is your standard Logan Paul match. You're not going to see too much deviating from his normal flow, and I understand why. He's got a lot of athleticism. He studies really well, but as far as the training and being on the road and all that goes, he's not going to deviate from his normal match standard. And AJ Styles really masked that well, I felt, in this match by covering for that standard Logan Paul match by just being awesome, just being AJ Styles, just being phenomenal. There was a moment there where one of the guys from Logan Paul's crew, I forget his name off the top of my head now, Roger or Mitch or something like that. He comes out, he tries to get the brass knuckles to Logan Paul. Karrion Kross intercepts, grabs the brass knuckles, and then asks AJ Styles to use them for the sake of the business, is the way that he was putting it. And he even called AJ Styles by his shoot name, Alan, which I thought was interesting as well, Alan Jones. And AJ Styles takes the brass knuckles and does the right thing by throwing them into the steel steps and then hitting Karrion Kross. That, unfortunately, doing the right thing cost him the match here, as Logan Paul was able to win. I thought that was very interesting. I don't know how they're going to play that up going forward with Karrion Kross. I don't know. Karrion Kross is the devil that you know. He is the truth sayer. Very much responsible for a lot of change of hearts that we've been seeing from some of the faces in the WWE. You can tie him to John Cena. You can tie him to Seth Rollins. You can tie him to Drew McIntyre. You can tie him to Dominic Mysterio winning here. Dominic Mysterio winning the Intercontinental Championship for 4 or 5 weeks. You can look in the backstage vignettes in the back there. Karrion Kross was talking to Dominic Mysterio. So I don't know if there's somebody that is working backstage that is just not a fan of Karrion Kross, and that's the reason why we don't get him prominently displayed on WWE television. But if you are following Karrion Kross on social media, more specifically X, you are watching the makings of a superstar. The guy knocks it out of the park and finds a way, even when he's not on television, to tie himself into some very important moments in WWE history, and I love that he's doing that. It's a very unique character. I think it's different than the Sean O'Hare placement that a lot of people are putting him in, saying that there's very much a similarity. I agree there might be some similarities there, but I think that what Karrion Kross is doing is far more bigger. The macro of what Karrion Kross is doing here is going to put him in a position to be King Kross, and I really hope that is what we see this year, if they are to bring back the King of the Ring, King Karrion Kross. I think it works good there. I'm not going to say that joke, but yeah, I think it works. So a big win there for Logan Paul. Even after the go-home math suggested that he would lose, he was able to pick up a win here at WrestleMania Night 2. In a very interesting move, Bayley, who was not really injured in real life, was written off of the WrestleMania 41 Night 2 tag team title match here. And I don't know why they decided to go with that, but for whatever reason, it was leaving Lyra Valkyria without a tag team partner for a match with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. We got the reveal, which I'm sure everyone and their mother was able to accurately predict there. Which was Becky Lynch making her return after over a year of being absent from WWE television. She returns teaming with Lyra Valkyria, who was, Becky played more of a mentor to Lyra before she was had her last match. And her last match, Becky's last match, was in a steel cage with Liv Morgan. So there is some, tying up of loose ends there. The story seems to have continued there with the story between Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch, and even Becky mentoring Lyra Valkyria. I thought the match was fine for what it was. It was nice to see Becky Lynch back again. Really sad that we couldn't get to see Bayley have another match here at WrestleMania. I'm sure they're going to play this into a point where either Bayley returns as a heel or maybe outs Becky for maybe being a heel. We're going to see how they're going to play this storyline going, because remember, Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins are now in alignment here, and we all know that Becky and Seth are a couple, so the power couple dynamic with Paul Heyman really is just kind of just hanging there ready to be activated whenever the WWE feels like that's going to be necessary. So that should be interesting. I would keep your eyes on that. Becky returning and being Lyra's partner and winning the tag titles as they did tonight was an interesting move, but it's interesting to see how they're going to play that up going forward. So be looking out for that. And as far as that goes, again, perfectly acceptable wrestling there. Nice to see Becky Lynch back, and really sad to see Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez out of the tag title pictures. But if I had to guess, I would say that they're not out of the woods just yet. They'll be back and looking to regain that tag team gold. And then right before the main event, Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out to kind of telegraph the fact that he's not going to be involved in the main event, to give fans that opportunity to see Stone Cold Steve Austin in the ring there. So we kind of saw going into this that Steve Austin wasn't going to be involved. One of the things that was exciting about the main event was the potential of The Rock showing up, Steve Austin showing up, and kind of getting something like similar to what we saw last year at WrestleMania 40 with Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out in the middle of, in between the tag team match and the main event there. It kind of showed us that we're probably not going to get that. And then we had John Cena against Cody Rhodes. We all saw this coming from miles away, but it was how we get there, right? It wasn't about the journey, more so it was the destination. How do we get there, right? And John Cena won, defeating Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed Championship, winning his 17th title. Now, it was at this moment that the crowd turned heel. The crowd turned heel, and something that they probably couldn't avoid. They tried so hard to avoid this. They wanted the fans to maybe possibly be split, but in this audience in Las Vegas, they were a pro John Cena crowd. Maybe not because they like the character of John Cena, but because they wanted to see him win his 17th world title. And this goes back to night one. This type of crowd is not the internet type of crowd, is not the crowd that is like hardcore WWE fan, has been watching through and through, week in and week out, 9 to 5 worker type. This is a special type of crowd, and they were cheering for the event. They were cheering for the moment of John Cena winning. And one of the craziest things about this crowd was that there were points and there were aspects of this match where they were booing John Cena, or maybe they weren't even reacting to the heel tactics of John Cena. And then another pivotal point here in this match is when Travis Scott shows up. He comes out to his music, probably takes a little bit longer to get to the ring than he should have. He comes out to the ring and then eats the crossroads eventually from Cody Rhodes, something that I had seen coming, maybe not as exactly as they had planned out, but I knew that we were going to see Travis Scott get his comeuppance after last year, what he did at the Elimination Chamber, what he did with Cody Rhodes. So now it was nice to see Cody get his revenge. Cody did get his revenge, and then he played good guy. Now, this is an interesting point here with this Cody Rhodes scenario where he was given an opportunity to hit John Cena with the championship belt. He decided not to. This was very similar to what we saw with AJ Styles and Karrion Kross here. And I've been noticing a lot of the parallels between what The Rock and the Final Boss is doing and what Karrion Kross is doing, albeit Karrion Kross's character had been doing it long before The Rock showed up and started doing the soul-snatching, soul-taking type of a character. So I thought that was interesting how they did that. Very similar there, and I don't know if those storylines are ever going to converge. However, they are very, very similar here. So Cody Rhodes decided not to hit John Cena with the championship belt. John Cena used the championship belt. The dirtiest player in the game was the 17-time World Heavyweight Champion, and now John Cena is the dirtiest player in the game. It's really going to be interesting to see where they go into Backlash, which is not too far from now. I think about 3 weeks from now, with John Cena as the champion. I envision in St. Louis we get Randy Orton against John Cena. I feel like that is the route that they go. With Cody Rhodes, I don't know if he disappears for a while or what happens with Cody Rhodes here. Very unfortunate that the Las Vegas crowd booed the shit out of him during this. I really felt like that was it kind of like it took away from the moment. Those that watch day to day, week to week, and that are following the show probably would not have done that. And I feel like the crowd ruined a really interesting moment to really boo the shit out of John Cena. But I also, so that's like me being a kayfabe lover of, a mark essentially of a great moment like that. I also understand the other side, which is like that crowd got to see history and also got to see John Cena compete in his last WrestleMania main event. So I understand both sides there. I am more leaning towards John Cena's moment there being historic in nature, and the crowd just happy to see that live. But I'll tell you, it kind of fucked the moment up, because you really, as a avid wrestling fan that I am, watching professional wrestling, it is the crowd participation is a big part in the enjoyment of a match. And I felt like they really kind of turned things upside down by booing Cody Rhodes and cheering John Cena. But it happens, and you get that, and that's fine. As far as the match goes, it was a main event. I don't think it was better than CM Punk, Roman Reigns, or Seth Rollins, and it didn't even come close to that, but it did what it was supposed to do, which was tell a story and execute the story the way that it was supposed to be executed. They didn't try and get fancy with it. They didn't try and trick us and go a different route. They gave us what we needed, and that's all you could hope for. On the other side of that, it's going to be interesting to see where they go. Also, conspicuous by his absence, The Rock, the final boss. I thought that was interesting as well. But we'll see what happens with The Rock there. The final boss, the devil, he sent his little demon, Travis Scott. So we'll see what happens going forward with that. I'm going to get out of here. I'm tired as fuck. But that is WrestleMania in a nutshell. There were probably about, 3 or 4, maybe 5 tops must-see matches on this card. Everything else, it was very reminiscent of earlier WrestleManias. I don't know if they were doing that on purpose. I see the big story coming out of this is WWE acquiring the AAA. So that's going to be the story going forward, and we're going to see what comes out on the other side of that. And Worlds Collide being about a week earlier than Forbidden Door this year, so that's going to be some craziness as well. Until then, you guys, this is the Wrestling Old Head in the portal of pro wrestling. Stay tuned for more.